Tonight, the political heavyweights take the stage, the long-awaited debate between Joe Biden and President Trump. Plus, more schools, law enforcement centers, and nonprofit organizations are taking extra precautions to prevent further spread of coronavirus. And later,
trails in the western part of the Bridger Mountains are open for hiking, but should you be hiking there? I'm Gabby Crevitt, and coming up, we'll hear from the U.S. Forest Service.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Thanks for making MTN a part of your evening. I'm Tim McGonigal. First at 10, in a pair of orders handed down late this afternoon, the Montana Supreme Court has set the final rules for the November 3rd election on two disputed issues involving mailed or absentee ballots. First, the High Court said in order for mail ballots to be counted this November, they must be returned to county election offices by 8 p.m. on Election Day. That ruling overrules a lower court order that said mailed ballots needed only to be postmarked by Election Day and arrive within 9 days later to be counted. The order maintains the current practice of requiring mailed ballots to be returned by Election Day, but the Supreme Court upheld a district court order voiding a 2018 law that had restricted who can collect and turn in absentee ballots cast by other people. That ruling is a victory for Native American tribes and the state Democratic Party, who said the restrictions unfairly blocked efforts to enable more voting on Indian reservations. In 45 of Montana's 56 counties, ballots will be mailed to all registered voters for the general election. They can be mailed back or returned in person to county election offices or drop boxes. Separate lawsuits by Republican groups that could block the all-mail ballots in those 45 counties remain undecided in federal court in Missoula. Well, tonight marked the long-awaited first debate between President Trump and Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden. As expected, their initial meeting quickly led to confrontations. CBS News correspondent Skylar Henry reports from the debate site, Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland.
President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden wasted no time trying to score points during their first debate.
That you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care, that they're very happy with.
That's simply not true.
But their interaction quickly dissolved into insults.
I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure
47 years you've done nothing.
And anger.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen. The coronavirus and the president's handling of the pandemic was also one of the debate's main topics.
It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. They're going to be
This is the same man
it's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm and that would take care of it.
They sparred over taxes. Biden released his 2019 returns hours before the debate and called on the president to do the same. A New York Times story published Sunday reported President Trump only paid $750 in taxes in 2016 and 2017, and none in many previous years.
Paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax.
And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts.
The debate was held here in a state that's vitally important to both candidates with 18 electoral votes. The CBS News Battleground Tracker currently shows Ohio as a toss-up with President Trump slightly edging Biden.
They won't have to wait long for a second round. The two will meet again in Miami 2 weeks from Thursday and a final time in Nashville, just a week and a half before Election Day. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Cleveland.
Well, ahead of the presidential debate, many local residents said they plan to watch. We spoke with people in Great Falls this afternoon who said they felt the debate would be important and historic. Issues they said they wanted to hear about were the economy and how they will continue to handle the coronavirus.
This election's all about this country, whether we're going socialist or we're remaining a free Republican like we have been.
The next presidential debate is scheduled for October 15th. Meanwhile, closer to home this weekend, our series of MTN debates continues with the race for Montana governor. Democrat Mike Cooney and Republican Greg Gianforte will take center stage with our panel of reporters, including Jay Cohn, Jill Valley, and Mike Dennison. You can watch that Saturday night at 6 on KRTV and KXLH. Also with the KRTV streaming app for Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, or Android TV. The Fort Peck, Assiniboine, and Sioux tribes, both in Roosevelt County, have declared a state of emergency due to COVID-19. This means there's a stay-at-home order. All non-essential businesses must close, and all gatherings must be limited to 10 people or less. We're working to get more information on this. Also tonight in Hill County, Box Elder Public Schools have alerted families that they will be doing distance learning the rest of the week. School officials were informed yesterday afternoon of a positive case in the facility, and they will continue their meal programs as scheduled. All practices were canceled today, but will resume tomorrow. And the Blaine County Health Department has informed the Harlem school community that on Monday, a staff member tested positive for COVID-19. So, out of an abundance of caution, the school was dismissed immediately. The district will conduct remote learning until at least October 9th. Lewis and Clark County Sheriff Leo Dutton is confirming additional COVID-19 cases among inmates in the county detention center. That brings the total to 4 inmates who have tested positive in 2 residential pods. All the inmates in those pods are being quarantined through the end of next week. Dutton says they're working with judges, attorneys, and public health to determine how to handle the inmates' court appearances. In addition, 7 detention center employees have tested positive out of about 50 who were checked. Dutton says they have had to take a staff member off of each shift at the jail, but they have been able to adjust.
We're absorbing it, not easily, but we're absorbing it. We're making it work. And hats off to the detention staff for stepping up and doing this.
The sheriff's office also has secured outside locations that could be used to isolate inmates who tested positive, but Dutton says they haven't had to use them yet. Well, we're nearing the end of September with sunshine in the forecast. Here with the first look at the weather is MTN's Curtis Grevenitz.
Well, good evening, everybody. Maybe some of you remember, maybe some of you don't want to remember. 1 year ago today, we were dealing with a record-breaking snowstorm for the Rocky Mountain Front and a lot of north central Montana, including the city of Great Falls. Just a record-breaking snowstorm. But Misha Welsh remembers that storm, I'm for sure, as there was as much as 52 inches of snow that fell near Babb. Yeah, 1 year ago today we were dealing with that system here. Now, today was a beautiful day. Skies were blue. However, I'm showing this map for a reason, because wildfire smoke will likely be headed back into Big Sky country as we get into Thursday, really. You can see some of that smoke coming up into the state here. Not as bad as a couple of weeks ago when everybody was dealing with unhealthy air, but there will be an element of some haze coming through as we get into the day on Thursday. Tomorrow, though, another picture-perfect day, although some pretty significant changes from the weather today. Another smoke show headed our way. I'll let you know how long that will last. And rain, it's been very rare. I'll let you know when we have some showers that could move into parts of the state coming up.
Thanks, Curtis. Well, a major street construction project in the capital city, initially planned for this year, has now been pushed back. On Monday, the Helena City Commission rejected the only bid they received for the first phase of the Rodney Street project. That means work on the project won't begin until at least spring. The only bid came from Helena Sand and Gravel for the $2.8 million. City engineer Ryan Leland says they didn't receive as much interest in the project as they had hoped. He believes that's because many contractors have been busier than usual during the pandemic.
Some of the bid items came in higher than the estimate, so we want to go back and take a look at it and see if there's anything we can do to change the plans, or why was it different than what we had estimated.
The first phase of work will be on Rodney Street between Broadway and 9th Avenue. The Rodney Street project was initially expected to start this spring. Leland says it was delayed because of an extended design and public comment process. Also in roads and traffic news, more than 30 people commented in person at informational meetings related to the 5 Points intersections in Helena. Meetings were held over the last 2 days for a multimodal traffic study to address safety, operations, access, and connectivity needs at the T intersections and connecting corridors. Commenters ranged from business owners to area residents. Project manager Scott Randall says the intersections function fairly well from a vehicle point of view, just moving cars and trucks through. However, most complaints received are about pedestrians and bikes moving through the intersections.
So about, connectivity, about making sure that you can make certain turning movements and you can access the areas you want without having to go different routes, and making sure it's just safe for all users and not just prioritizing vehicles.
Randall says they will now look at the input and hope to have recommendations by the end of the year. People are still able to leave a comment about the intersections online. Well, coming up, a Helena father and son on a dinosaur dig stumble across an amazing find. We'll share their discovery after the break.
Get an accurate forecast that fits your evening plans.
We're forecasting higher than normal temperatures for the next 3 days, but after that, expect those
Your weather on your schedule. Download the new KRTV streaming app today. Powered by MTN News.
In these parts.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Welcome back. A monster fossil discovery by a father and son has created an unforgettable learning opportunity for some of the Montana Learning Center's campers. MTN's John Riley has more.
Keith and Rodney Caldwell were excited to attend the Carter County Museum Dino Shindig this July in Ekalaka. But little did they know, they'd discover an ancient leviathan.
One evening, we decided to go out and look for some invertebrate fossils like clams and oysters and stuff like that. And then while we were walking, my dad, he stumbled upon a few vertebrae just sticking out of the ground.
First, we didn't know what we had. We just started, just a little bit sticking out of the ground. And all this time out there with Heath looking at dinosaur bones for the last several years, it's kind of like, okay, this is a marine reptile.
The Caldwells immediately contacted the Carter County Museum, who got a permit to dig up the fossil. They still aren't 100% sure, but believe the fossil is that of a Mosasaurus, a 30 to 60 foot marine reptile that lived more than 66 million years ago. For the discovery, Heath got to name it.
And I thought, if it's a terrifying animal, it was the apex predator of the ocean at that time. So I thought naming it after my mom, Vicky, I thought that's a very fitting name for such a scary animal.
By happenstance, Heath was a junior counselor for the Montana Learning Center who had a camp scheduled in the area in the following weeks. Instead of just looking for fossils, the teen campers spent 3 days helping researchers excavate the fossil find and learning firsthand what paleontologists do. Executive Director Ryan Hanaho says it was an amazing opportunity.
This is a huge opportunity because the kids can contribute to real, meaningful, publishable science.
In addition to their work on Vicky, the campers also created an exhibit at the Carter County Museum with their other finds. Finding a fossil, even a small one like this guy, is pretty exciting. Finding one that's larger than a school bus while also contributing to the field of paleontology, that's unforgettable. Reporting in Helena, John Riley, MTN News.
Well, coronavirus concerns have canceled many concerts in 2020, but the music will go on for the Great Falls Symphony. They're adapting the upcoming season to still provide some live performances. The first performance will be this Saturday. This year, tickets are free. The Symphony is offering 6 shows between October and April. Each performance will have 2 showings, one at 3 p.m., the other at 7:30 p.m. The audience will be limited to 200 people for each performance. There will also be about 30 musicians on stage, opposed to the normal 60 to 70.
And for the first concert, we're actually doing it with all strings because they can wear masks, and I'll wear a mask too. It'll look a little bit weird with the mask conductor, but and that's just, since it's the first one, we want to make sure we get our procedures in place before we start adding a bunch of wind players sending saliva in all directions.
Free tickets are available now at the Mansfield Center for the Performing Arts box office inside the Civic Center. You do have to get tickets ahead of time, and if you can't make it to the performances in person, we've got you covered. The show will be available on Sundays at 12 p.m. on the KRTV streaming app.
Well, we certainly could use some rain here, not only in Montana, but throughout a lot of the West. Look how many locations are dealing with extreme drought, and it's pretty dry in Montana. I'll let you know if we've got any showers headed our way coming up.
Well, in Bozeman, firefighters are still busy working to fully contain the Bridger Foothills fire. MTN's Gabby Crevitt lets us know a few things to keep in mind before hiking in some of the favorite spots in the Bridger Mountains.
There's no question about it. Hikes in the Bridger Mountains, including the M Trail, are some of the most popular trails in the area. But is now the right time to be hiking in the Bridgers? Put simply, yes and no.
The west side of the Bridgers, those trails are open. However, Bridger Bowl trails south are closed.
The U.S. Forest Service says if you go beyond the M, don't go beyond the ridge line.
So that ridge line is really the dividing area. Please don't go over the ridge line to the east side. Firefighters are still working the areas.
The Forest Service says generally it's best to avoid hiking the trails when it's too crowded. But if you're dead set on hiking the western part of the Bridgers and past the M, keep this in mind.
We do have invasive species is a concern on the forest. We can really use the public's help in being able to not be a vector for spreading invasive weeds.
Those invasive weeds include leafy spurge, hound's tongue, as well as thistles. Best practices before heading up beyond the M: check your feet and gear for burrs. Also, check your dog, who may unknowingly be carrying some burrs up the hill. Most importantly, stay on the trail. It's likely you will encounter some of the burned area, and those are the spots that are most important to protect from invasive weeds.
Everything is burned, and invasive species are very easy to be able to take hold and easily spread at this point.
So while it is permitted to go and inspect some of the burned area, it should be done carefully and responsibly. And you can find a full list of hiking trails that are open in the Bridger Mountains by visiting our website. Reporting in Bozeman, Gabby Crevitt, MTN News.
Storm Tracker weather starts now with Chief Meteorologist Curtis Grevenens.
All right, a pretty night out there. However, there's a little cold front that is moving through the state. I know it's going through without much in the way of fanfare, but our wind beginning to switch. Kind of a gusty day out there today, but that west and southwest wind becoming more northeast, and those temperatures will be going down here tonight. Around the Helena area, still out ahead of the cold front with winds out of the west and current temperature of 66 degrees. But there you can see some of that cooler air that's beginning to spill into the northern tier of the state. Temperatures back into the 50s. Not a huge cold front, but we will not be in the 80s tomorrow like we were today. Wind speeds, we had sustained winds 20-25 miles per hour, some gusts up over 30 miles per hour today, but that wind again is beginning to shift and will be dying down here tonight. Oh, it'd be nice to get some of those rain showers into at least parts of the state here. We do have a new wildfire that formed here southwest of Three Forks called the Antelope Fire. That was putting out a pretty good smoke plume, so some good activity on that fire. The fire, no known cause yet, but it was right near some railroad tracks down there, again, kind of in between Three Forks and Cardwell. But very dry weather continues for really the western 2/3 of the country right now. Weather alerts, still a few out here into California dealing with air quality, really just kind of nasty air because of the wildfire smoke that has been continuing to develop here with the wildfires that are burning. Now, really not much in the way of activity besides that new fire here in Montana. Western Idaho, there were some good plumes of smoke coming off of those wildfires there. And as our high pressure that's been giving us some really nice weather shifts a little bit towards the east, we're going to see some of this smoke coming back into the state, and it will be noticeable in the sky as we get into Thursday. Noticeable tomorrow will be the cooler temperatures. We're in the lower 80s today, lower 60s, in some cases upper 50s for highs tomorrow, but skies will be mainly clear. Thursday is when a little of that smoke will come in. I still think the air quality will be good. Friday, maybe a few showers out far eastern Montana, and then heading into the weekend, it does look very quiet and very warm for the first weekend of October here, with temperatures into the 70s, possibly even near 80 degrees once again. Temperatures tonight getting down into the 30s and the 40s for most of the state, and here's the forecast for tomorrow. A cooler day. Again, today we're in the upper 70s, lower to mid 80s in some areas, 60s for most of the state. Some pretty strong north winds in the eastern part of Montana. Thursday, this is when some of that smoke will come into the sky here, but This cold front right here, another cool front without much in the way of activity, this will come through the state as we go into Friday morning and likely push some of that smoke down to the south. Highs 60s and lower 70s for Friday, and then heading into the first weekend of October, not looking too bad. 60s and 70s with mostly sunny skies. There's the 7-day forecast for Helena. Then you can see the numbers after a little cooler day tomorrow, back into the 70s and maybe even the 80s Monday and Tuesday. And for Great Falls in north central Montana, a cooler day tomorrow, but still a real pretty fall day. We're in the 70s through the weekend, possibly near 80 degrees next Tuesday. And with that wind increasing, the fire danger will do so as well.
Still to come, after an abrupt end to their season, it's back on the ice for the Americans. A look at how their team has changed drastically in the wake of COVID.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Well, tonight was supposed to be the first crosstown volleyball tilt between Great Falls High and CM Russell, but that matchup has been rescheduled. The match will be played on October 6th at Swarthout Fieldhouse. It's not the only game Great Falls High will have to reschedule this fall. The entire Bison volleyball team is just getting back to practice this week after 2 weeks off due to a COVID-19 case. We'll hear more about their experience later this week. 7 months after the NA3HL hockey postseason was called off due to the COVID-19 pandemic, junior teams return to the ice this weekend in Montana. Tom Wiley catches up with the Great Falls Americans after a long off season.
Like many programs across the country, the Great Falls Americans junior hockey team saw its season end prematurely in March.
Yeah, it was tough. It was, they're teenage kids, and there's a lot of emotion in the game and what we try to do. It's a 7-month journey, and to just kind of be stopped was pretty tough.
Great Falls had won 9 straight games, a playoff series, and were up 1-0 on Sheridan in the division semifinals.
It was a blast. It was a really fun ride, and then just with everything that happened with COVID and stuff, it was a tough way to see it end. But we're back, so should be a good season.
After months of uncertainty and 2 weeks of training camp, the 2020 junior hockey season starts this weekend, and for the Americans, it's a chance to take care of some unfinished business.
You come into the practice and you're just like, all right, I need to actually work as hard as I can because you don't know when it's going to get taken away at this point. We're fighting against time almost. I know everyone along with me, we still have a fire burning from last year, so we still got a good, strong core, so I'm not too bad.
It's not unusual to see international players from, say, Europe or Canada on the Americans roster from year to year, but in 2020, that's not the case due to league protocols.
We don't have any import players to start, which was kind of to be expected, but we're still about 30 guys, and I think that's why we have a good group back, like guys that could come back, and they're hungry.
In Great Falls, Tom Wiley, MTN Sports.
And stay tuned, we'll be right back.
All right, one last check of the 7-day forecast here, and a cooler day tomorrow, but boy, there's a lot of sunshine on the map here, and what's missing? Yeah, any rain. A little smoke moving back into the state for Thursday, but that smoke should clear on Friday, and we're looking at a gorgeous weekend all across the state.
All right, well, that's all the time we have. Montana This Morning comes your way at 4:30. We hope you have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.